You're tuned to The Conversation here on Hawaii Public Radio. I'm Catherine Cruz. A whirlwind tour for U.S. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg to see how federal dollars are being spent and where the needs are great. The trip started with a rail ride with the mayor and HART officials on Skyline. The $10 billion rail system is shiny and new, but it struggles with low ridership since its opening in July. It doesn't yet reach any major hubs. Pete Buttigieg also got a tour of Honolulu Harbor, our lifeline for goods and supplies. It included a blessing at the Kapalama Container Terminal, which is slated to open in the first part of next year. The redo of the storage facility is to reduce congestion. The $500 million project is a cornerstone of the harbor modernization plan. The day-long tour ended at the Daniel K. Inouye International Airport with a look at the runway fixes. State Transportation Director Ed Sniffen briefed us about the work that's begun to repave the shoulder of the runways and to replace the aging lights. Those runways were repaved last year, a massive project that stalled other highway projects to ensure that there was enough asphalt available on island to complete the job.
So when we started looking at shutting down different taxiways in areas, they asked us not to because they didn't allow them to access the airfield because of pockets that were in bad condition. So working with the Meredith Berger now on the Navy side, because it's a joint base, and with the Air Force to try and see how we can expedite funding in that area. And if we can be agents for construction, the DOT will do it.
Okay.
So good partnerships there.
And to what extent can you keep it left in service while all this work's going on?
So when we actually just finished this up, so this whole time we kept it in service. We only shut it down for 30 days.
Really?
Yeah, for a 30-day period, we took all the asphalt from the state. We told everybody else you're gonna have to hold your projects because all the asphalt went in this area.
Wow.
So we did 3,000 feet of concrete, and the rest of it was asphalt, PMA, and the industry was great in making sure that we got everything done timely.
And this trip for the Transportation Secretary was a chance to see with his own eyes the impact of federal infrastructure funding and to see the need statewide, from the Big Island bridges to the highways in Maui and Kauai. Buttigieg told HPR he had only visited the islands once on a vacation to Kona, so this was his first chance to see Maui and Oahu. We asked about what he was struck by over his two-day visit.
Really just the unique needs and the opportunities here. People in Hawaii count on so many goods being shipped in through the port, so I was glad we had a chance to see the harbor. People, especially in Honolulu, are facing a crunch when it comes to housing and affordability. That's one of the reasons I wanted to see the transit line that's being set up, because that can actually help make it easier for people to have more options by changing the way you commute. It can actually help in an indirect way with housing. And of course, aviation is so important to a state located where Hawaii is. So seeing directly the visions for improving this facility and where those federal dollars that we're bringing through the Biden infrastructure plan, seeing where those dollars are going to go, was really great too. It's been a really informative visit. And yesterday on Maui, had the opportunity to see the devastation that those wildfires wreaked on the community, but also the resilience of the community and why it's so important for us to be supporting them as an administration.
Yeah, I think resiliency is something that is so important for an island community, whether it's Maui or here on Oahu, when any of these vital links are disrupted, we're kind of at the mercy, of things getting back together again.
Yeah, there are a lot of places where there's a single point of dependency. One example is the port that is so vital. Things that go all across the state first come in through that port in Honolulu. Another example is what we saw in terms of the Honoapiilani Highway in Maui, which is really the only connection that many in the West have to the rest of the island, which is part of why we're bringing funds to help elevate it so that it's less likely to be overtaken by sea level rise, especially those king tides that are happening more and more often. So many places where there's no alternatives. So we're trying to either create alternatives or make sure that what you do have here can be more resilient, whether it's an airport, a road, or a port.
And I'm just curious, what was the takeaway for you when you went on Skyline today?
I saw a very impressive, very modern new system. I also know there's been a lot of frustration and impatience getting that up and running. So I was encouraged to see that now it very much is. I saw it with my own eyes, rode on it. Of course, much of the value of that system will come from the stations that are going to be added in the future. So we're pleased to be able to fund that work, and we want to work closely with Hawaii to make sure that those get delivered.
Yeah, I know when the next leg of the route is open, that's key because of all the shipyard construction that's going on at Pearl Harbor. And those workers have to have some way to get to work, because they're going to be hiring thousands of people.
That's right. You have a lot of jobs, a lot of economic growth, and therefore a lot of need to get around. And, good transit benefits everybody. Even if you don't use it, you benefit because the roads that you do use are less congested. But I also hope a modern system like this really becomes a means of choice for people to get around, whether they have a car or not. A lot of thought and a lot of expense has gone into trying to get it right the first time with a very modern system. And my hope is the more people have the experience of using it, especially when those new routes get added, the more people are going to like it.
Is there anything you were surprised by as you took this first trip here through Honolulu?
Well, I was very impressed by the teamwork that goes on here, both among communities and their leadership, sitting down with the mayors, seeing how the mayors and the state work together, but also with their federal partners. Our Department of Transportation has a lot of personnel on the ground here, from the Federal Aviation Administration to the Federal Highway Administration and others. And I know there are always challenges to overcome when you have different units of government trying to work together, but I saw a very strong level of collaboration that impressed me, because you can't take that for granted. It certainly doesn't exist everywhere that I go.
And there was just recently, some concern about the security at the ports, with the cranes that were being made in China. And, my understanding is that we're not so much affected by that. I think Matson gets its cranes from elsewhere. But it's just the vulnerabilities, I think, that maybe, I don't know, are they striking to you as you go from state to state?
Yeah, it's something I discussed with the port leadership, and something we're looking at everywhere we go. Look, every form of transportation is becoming more and more interwoven with technology. That can be a good thing, but it does create new vulnerabilities. And we as a country need to be sure that our critical infrastructure is secure. That's been a big focus for President Biden. It's something our department's paying a lot of attention to, working with our partners in the Department of Homeland Security and other cyber experts to try to safeguard that infrastructure, because it is a concern, whether we're talking about port equipment or any other piece of transportation infrastructure we count on every day.
And then is there anything else, just as far as future federal dollars that might come our way?
Yeah, we had a lot of good news this week, and I think we'll see more where this came from. I can't always predict what the next project will be, partly because we don't devise the projects in Washington. We count on the communities in the state to bring us their projects, and then we fund as many as we can. Our philosophy is that the good ideas don't all come from Washington, but more of the money should. And that's really how President Biden's infrastructure plan has worked. It's how we've been able to support things from the ring road bridges on the Big Island to the Honoapi'ilani upgrade on Maui to the airport work happening right here. And I'm sure that pattern will continue.
Yeah. And anything else that you, I guess, were struck by today?
Just that it's an extraordinary place with incredibly welcoming people who are also very determined to improve transportation infrastructure and face some of the biggest challenges that people here are confronting, including affordability and quality of life issues that better transportation can help with.
That was a conversation that we had with Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who returned to the mainland last night. While this was a rare chance to show off what federal dollars are paying for, it also provided a first-hand look at the vulnerabilities of our island state and our need to modernize our lifelines, our highways, bridges, harbors, and airports.